Yes, thank you very much, Sean. And once again, a very big welcome to all of our attendees. We would like to say thank you to all of you who have reached out to us during the past few weeks. A lot of you have been sending some information through on this SWPs. We really appreciate that. So we'd like to say thank you. And also on the different topics you would like to hear. Now, some concern was raised over personal protective equipment or PPE, and how employees and employers should view PPE. So this is why we've decided to actually do a secondary PPE. In fact, for this year, it's the second one, but in the series of Toolbox Talks, this is the third time we are actually speaking about PPE. So we really see that this is a very big need to speak to all of you about this out in the industry. And as plumbers, you are no stranger to PPE. You're using it on a everyday basis, and you will agree that there are so many different types of PPE. Choosing what is best for you and your team, as well as what is best for the actual task at hand, is sometimes going to take you a little bit of time on researching the best product, especially when you need to look for something that is not just going to assist you in working safely, but at the same time, what is within your budget and being cost effective. So we have reached out to local PPE companies. We do have some brilliant offers when it comes to PPE from one of the big chain stores, saying that they are really going to look at their pricing, and hopefully we can structure something to put to you as plumbers out there, something a little bit more cheaper, but also quality products, so that you are not skimping on the product quality side. But let's see if we can't get it cheaper for you. So we are working on this every day. We are looking to see how we can make it better for you, the plumber out in the industry. For those of you who are in the safety industry, please maybe reach out to us as well. Um, Often we get safety specifications on PPE, and because we are dealing with the plumbers, you might have something specific that you need the plumbers to be using. Uh, Maybe it's environmental, or maybe it's just the actual area where you are working in your current situation, or your current organization's inviting plumbers to work, and there's certain PPE that you require for your company. Maybe just drop us an email or a text message or a WhatsApp, as we mentioned, and we can just start building up what type of PPE is needed out there in the areas, as well as finding out from you, the plumber, what type of PPE you are using and how you are finding the use of these to be viable for yourself. Perhaps you've got a cost-effective method already of using PPE. But at the end of the day, PPE is extremely important. It's been around since early in man's history. So from really early, man realized that he had a need to protect himself from direct sources of danger, such as protecting the head in order to ensure that the brain is protected, face protection of your ears, eyes, nose, and mouth, then the entire body, your skin, and all other vital organs that go with it, and obviously your extremities as well, your hands and your feet. Today, it is no different. All employees want to protect themselves, and employers do their best to ensure that they are getting the right product for the employees. But really, the purpose is to protect yourself from harm, and this is why we are using PPE. But why then are there still so many incidents and accidents occurring that could have been prevented by the use of PPE? Now, we're not saying by the use of expensive PPE. Sometimes cost-effective PPE could have been used to prevent an incident and accident, but it is still not stopping these smaller incidents and accidents from occurring. In fact, just in the past 6 months, working along with some of the plumbers, even going out to look at how audits are done, we noticed that the use of PPE was vital from the start of a project. But as we went through some of the tasks, the PPE started getting hot, the PPE got dirty. It almost seemed as if the PPE got in the way. And then it was just put one side. So to answer the question, why are there still so many incidents and accidents that could have been prevented by the use of PPE? Well, simply put, our attitude towards something determines our action toward it. So if we do not view it as something vital or mandatory, then we are not going to act with the same urgency uh, as most would actually, or some would act towards PPE. So let us look again at why PPE is so important, and let's try and really get to the crux of the matter when it comes to why PPE is so important, and just to remind everyone why the use of PPE can actually prevent smaller injuries and accidents from continually happening. Let's just take head protection. Protecting your brain from falling objects, from bumping objects. A hard hat is extremely important, but why is that? Well, when working at heights, we want to use a hard hat in case we fall. Using a lanyard and a lifeline, we may have a pendulum effect, which means you may swing from side to side, or where you fall, you will always land generally directly under your anchor point. So wherever you hooked on, that's really where you're going to be landing. If you do move from side to side and your hard hat falls off, well, then you have the possibility of banging your head against some hard object that is around you. So the suggestion is to ensure you have the hard hat placed on your head at all times. The use of a chin strap must be worn when working at heights. We also want to ensure that our hard hat is clean, free of dirt, and also not putting unauthorized stickers all over it. Now, you might ask yourself, well, why is that important? Why is it important to keep our hard hats clean? Um, if it's dirty, it's still going to work, isn't it? Well, in many cases, this is true, but how do you view your hard hat? If it is really something important to you, and it is protecting a very important part of your body, would you not want to look after that thing? Something that is so vital as to look after your brain? Well, no doubt, keeping it clean there would basically show that your attitude, first of all, toward it, but at the same time, if there are any issues with that hard hat, it is easier to see if your hard hat is clean. Then adhere to your site-specific color coding for hard hats. Now, you might not be working in this environment, but at some sites, you have to use the correct color for the type of work you are doing. For those who are working on roofs, generally we ask them to wear pink hard hats. Now you might wonder why the color pink? Well, pink is very, very clearly seen from a very long or far distance away. And oftentimes when workers are working on the roof, we request them to work with pink hard hats so that we can see if any of them are not wearing their hard hats at any given time. White hard hats are then generally kept for management. Blue hard hats are there for general workers. Yellow hard hats are there for first aiders or fire marshal, or red for fire marshals. But really just look at the site-specific color coding and always make sure that your site-specific safety specs are adhered to. Never share a hard hat. Why is that? Well, the definition of PPE is personal protective equipment. So as soon as it is issued to you, it becomes a personal piece of equipment, and thus it belongs to you as an employee. It cannot be shared amongst other workers. It is your personal property that you need to use during the course of your work. Remember, you must inspect your PPE every single day before you use it. And in this case, a hard hat must be inspected on the inside as well, on the frame or the shell on the inside, and also on the little clips that are on the molding on the inside to ensure that this has not perished. The chin strap as well must always be fixed and fastened neatly, as well as to ensure that it stays on your head during working. Now, when it comes to other types of PPE, such as body protection, we obviously always take a look at what type of work we are doing. Now, as plumbers, you work with a lot of chemicals. And if you are using chemicals at any time, please ensure that the body support that you're, or the body protection rather, that you are using is going to protect you against such chemicals. But generally, a normal overall is there to protect you against a splashback of waste. Perhaps you are cleaning grease traps then this will protect you against the splashback of that grease or the oils that you are going to be working with. So keep in mind that body protection is there to protect your body, but at the same time, there are specific types of body protection for the specific tasks that you are doing. Again, we'll mention maybe a little bit of research will need to be done in order to ensure you know what is the best body support for you. So again, always wear your overalls or body protection when it is required, keeping this clean so that any chemicals or splashback that is accumulated on this body protection is cleaned off regularly. Just as a suggestion, we want to remind you that when working with chemicals, a separate bay for washing of these overalls must be provided at your workplace, especially if a chemical is in a certain type of class. So maybe just take a look at the chemicals that you are using and ensure that it's not mixed with normal clothing or in a uh, washing machine that is used for normal clothing, because these chemicals are rather strong and oftentimes they can stay inside this washing machine or move onto other articles of clothing throughout the washing cycle. So just be careful of this. Obviously, chemicals are extremely dangerous and we do not want them getting or attaching to any other article of clothing, especially if we are washing our clothes at home, and then our kids or our family might also be in danger because of these chemicals that we bring home. Always ensure that you have the right type of body protection and ensure that you are working with one that complies to SAN standards. So yes, we are looking for cost-effective PPE because we do work through PPE quite often, but SAN standards are there to protect not only ourselves and our employees, but also the PPE that we are working with. So make sure you do the right research to ensure you know which type of body support is best for you and is best for the task that you are performing. Again, do not share your PPE. It is called personal protective equipment, and always inspect your PPE every single day. When it comes to body support, you want to make sure that there are no tears so that any splashback or chemicals or anything that could have come into contact with the body does not slip into one of these tears and then actually touch you or your skin or get into any part of your body that you do not want it to. So maybe you can ask yourself at this point, what is the condition of your current PPE? For those of you listening, maybe you are wearing PPE at the moment. Well, maybe after this toolbox talk, take a few minutes and why not go over the PPE that you are currently wearing and see if it is according to standard, if it is clean, and if you are wearing the correct type of PPE. When it comes to body support, those of you who are maybe working in ceilings, scaffolding, maybe you are erecting scaffolding on site and you're going to be working at heights, please ensure that you are using a full body harness, not a safety belt. We want to ensure that it is a full body harness, one that protects the shoulders, the chest and waist, as well as the legs, and it is wrapped around you correctly. Please ensure that a full body harness always comes attached to a double leg lanyard, not a single leg lanyard, unless you are using a restraint device, one that is designed with an anchor point that only has a singular use, but it is attached at all times. Those are the only types of single lifelines that can be used to attach to this body part. Otherwise, if it is a lanyard, as you see there in the picture on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, a double leg lanyard must be used. And this is so that you can hook one hook onto a item of anchor point, and while moving around, one hook can be removed while the other is still connected, and then you can attach it about a meter and a half away, and then move the other hook one at a time so that 100% hookup is always achieved. Now you might think, well, this is very slow. We're going to take forever to get a job done. Well, rather take longer and have everybody survive than one person fall and the possibility of somebody dying. Now remember, always try and have 2 points of attachment. You do have two hooks. If possible, see if you can find two anchor points that are pretty close together. And a shoulder level minimum is always practical. When working on a roof, it's very difficult to have this. So remember your static lifelines that run across the ridge of the roof, or even if you have a restraint device, these will also be necessary. Although it's not going to be shoulder level, it is going to allow you to work on that roof and not allow you to reach an edge where you could actually fall and contact the ground or another lower level. Again, inspect this every day before using it, looking for wear and tear, nips, or even tears inside your actual harness. Now, the reason again that you are wearing a harness is to stop yourself from falling. And this is what we call fall protection. Next week, Tuesday, our toolbox talk topic is on fall protection and the plan that goes along with the fall protection. So if you maybe are not a FAE or you do not understand what fall protection is or how to design a fall protection plan, tune in next week Tuesday and we'll go over the basics of what a fall protection plan is. Then we come to ear protection. Always wear protection for your ears when it is required. Now, there are different types. You'll notice there in the picture, you have ear plugs, you have ear muffs. Which one must you use? Well, it all depends on the decibel reading or the noise levels at your individual working areas. This means that you might need to do a test or a survey on how much noise is in the environment in order to find which appropriate hearing protection you must use. Most of the times when we are using machines or portable electrical tools that generate a lot of noise, it is required or actually mandatory that we wear hearing protection. But which type must we be using? Let's use the illustration of a plumber drilling into a wall to put up a geyser bracket. Well, this may require the use of an earplug. But a grinder, on the other hand, may make a lot more noise. Perhaps you're using a core drill. So it's also a drill, but it's a core drill. This is going to make a lot more noise. So maybe the use of your muffs is going to be required. Well, what are the decibel readings for that machine that you are using? Have you taken an accurate reading, and do you know which type of earmuff or ear protection you must use? Again, do not share your hearing protection. Please ensure that you have a personal protective equipment. It is personal and it must only be used by you. Inspect it every day before you use it. Eye protection, they say that a picture paints 1,000 words. Now, for those of you who are listening in the cars, I know some of you say that you go through traffic listening to these toolbox talks, so you might not be able to see this picture. You have a person who was working with a cutting disc on a grinding or baby grinder, and the grinding disc shattered and it almost went straight into his eye. But because he has a eye support or eye protection on, it didn't go through the safety glasses and contact his eyes, which he obviously could have lost his sight there. So this type of picture tells us why it is so important to wear eye protection. Now, maybe a question for each one of you. When would it happen that a grinding disc could shatter and enter a person's eye? Could it be at any stage? Could it be at any time? Is there a possibility for an incident or an accident like this to happen at any given time? Or do you know the exact date and time of when it is going to happen? Well, the answer to that question will determine when we are going to be using eye protection. Foot protection or wearing safety boots is also very important. Again, we want to ensure that we have the right type of foot protection depending on the work that we are going to be doing. As an example, if we are welding or grinding, the shoelaces on these safety boots are flammable, and sometimes this would allow it to catch a light. So perhaps using spats on the safety boot or wearing a safety boot that has spats on it already or a slip-on safety boot may work even better. Again, it's going to take you a little bit of time to research what is the best type of foot protection you need. And ensure you always keep a set of safety boots with you, even if you are just doing inspecting on a site. You're not going to work as a plumber, you're just going to go and do a site inspection. Well, perhaps that site requires you to wear safety protection when getting there. Ensure you have it in your bucky and make sure that you wear it, even though you are not working on site. Just accessing a site means that those dangers could affect you. Inspect them every day before your use and always ensure that you have your own pair. Now, even though PPE seems to be less important than all other safety measures, it is the last resort to our protection. It is also very vital. Please ensure that your PPE is clean, always used, and is properly maintained at all times. Maybe you can ask yourself at this point, do you care for the items that have been given to you in the interest of health and safety? Do you regularly maintain the PPE in order for it to be of best use when you are working? Well, again, your attitude towards something will determine your actions towards it. So, just to wrap up, we're taking too much time already. We do apologize. It is a 20-minute session. So, are you protected? In general, you must take care of your own health and safety as well as the health and safety of others. So please ensure that you and those around you are working with the correct PPE. Always make use of your PPE and please never abuse your personal protective equipment. Keep it clean, report any defects or dangers of your PPE. Make sure that it is in your possession and it is kept safe. As always, always protect your PPE as it is going to protect you. Never interfere or misuse your PPE, such as using the hooks on your full body harness as a hammer. Remember the right tool for the right job. So currently we are in Gauteng with our training. We are also going to be there in October the 9th, 8th to the 9th in Gauteng for first aid as well as firefighting on the 22nd. And then we're coming down to Western Cape in November. So if you have not currently booked for your training, please reach out to us, Chris at ohss.co.za, safety at iopsa.org, or info at ohss.co.za. So again, just as a reminder, we are out of cell service. So if you want to get in touch with us directly, please WhatsApp us on 0718752070. I'm also on WhatsApp calling if you need up until October the 2nd. And then we look forward to seeing all of you at the nearest training area where you are going to be visiting. So without delaying you too much or taking too much of your time, we're sorry that we have gone over time today. But we look forward to seeing you next week for full protection plan, how we do that, how we go about designing a full protection plan, and why it is so important for us to have it. Thank you very much, Sean. I'll hand it over back to you.